Welcome to our podcast about the systems in the games we play and how those inspire the ones we make. I'm Sam.
And I'm CJ, and this is Systems in Play. Now, guys, have you ever played a game that's just absolutely pulled the rug out from under your feet?
In this episode, we're discussing Inscryption, a mysterious game that nearly broke my neck with all of its twists.
In addition to the gameplay and the story, we're also going to talk about what it means to finish a game, or simply just put a game down.
Let's get into it. Big disclaimer, if you've not played Inscryption, highly recommend that you, if you're interested at all in playing it, do it before listening to this podcast.
Yes. Or better yet, go watch our playthrough of it.
Systemsinplay.com has all of our links if you want to find our playthrough. But you're gonna see some clips of that up on the screen here, and we'll try to stay spoiler free for the first half, at least in terms of story. We're gonna talk about mechanics and everything in the first half of this episode, and then we'll make it very clear that if you are not interested in spoilers, there will be a cutoff where you turn off the episode and go watch our VOD.
For this first part, very, very mild spoilers. We'll tell you when the heavy stuff comes, and you should definitely play the game first.
Yeah. I will say, if you know nothing about the game, expect the unexpected. That's what drew me into the game. I don't think that's a spoiler. I'll just say, I was interested in playing the game. And you can probably hear this if you see on the first VOD. I knew there was a twist. I knew that the game wasn't exactly what it was appearing to be on the surface. And that was kind of the intrigue for me. That's what kept me interested.
It's a game by Daniel Mullins, and if you know anything about Daniel Mullins, then expect this game to be a very Daniel Mullins-centric game. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that.
And that's all I've got to say about that.
Let's get into it with, we're going to start off by talking about, the basic mechanics, the gameplay, the general vibe of what Inscryption is. You boot up the game, what do you see? What do you feel?
The very first thing, you start the game, and there's a little bit of a kind of a meta narrative about somebody is putting in the game Inscryption and playing it. That's really all the context. I mean, this is spoilers for the first 1 second of the game.
Yeah.
You start it off, and there's somebody putting the game in. You are not necessarily the player of Inscryption.
Right.
I think is the right way to put that. So.
Yeah, I think you're the guy who's like, what is this Inscryption? I've never heard of this. And then he plays it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all you get at first. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that plot line doesn't go completely away. And then another thing, and this actually threw us off when we were setting up our save. When you start the game, there is no new game button. It's continue. Yeah. And there's some other audio options and other things like that, but that is the only thing you can do is continue.
Right. And when you do continue it, what do you see? You start at a cabin, right? You click continue. You're thinking, what the hell? I think also the guy talks about it too. The guy you're playing, he's like, why can't I click new or something like that?
Yeah, I do think it's mentioned or referenced in some capacity.
So the idea is you're continuing someone else's playthrough of this fictional game. Right. Already super meta.
Gives off kind of like a creepypasta feel of, I found this game at a garage sale. It's a haunted version of Ocarina of Time.
Been drowned, dude. Been drowned. But yeah, you start off, you go, and it doesn't let you walk around yet, right? You immediately start the card game, I believe, right?
That sounds right, but I don't remember.
Oh,
I think you might. Whatever. It doesn't matter too much, even if you're not. I think you're right that you start in and you're talking to this kind of floating pair of eyes in front of you, who is introducing you to the game, kind of giving you a little bit of information and explaining how to play. But that's really it. You can look around. I believe. You can move your head from side to side. You're like a 3D character in this room. But there's not a whole lot else you can do at this point. This is as close to as close as a tutorial as this game is going to give you.
Let me reiterate, like you're the guy in the world playing the game. So where most card games are like the cards are just UI, they're physical cards, I believe.
Yes.
So your character, like you can see his hand holding them, and you like put them down and stuff.
And we'll put it back on the screen here so you can see it.
Yeah.
You're holding the cards in your hand. You can see your hand in the game. This is very like, I don't want to say meta isn't the right word, but there's a very strong feeling of like presence and reality to the game. Almost like if it were a VR thing. I think it would fit in really well with that type of game design.
It's very, diegetic?
Yeah,
very,
diegetic.
very diegetic. It's really good. But that's just the card game part. That's what you're introduced to at the very beginning. You play this little card roguelike game. We'll get into that in a bit. But eventually you get to a point where the character sitting across from you, who is essentially the DM of your card game,
right? He's
controlling what's happening. He's telling like a story. You're in like a forest, I think is one of the levels anyway.
Right. To take a step back, once you get past like the first round of the card game, you'll see this map. If you've played any other recent card game, it's a very common thing to have like a trail in front of you where you can pick different options to go. I want to do this battle, or I'm going to choose to do a boss battle, or go to this event. Same thing for Inscryption, but there's some flavor to it in that the DM per se is describing you are this person in the woods, and you are walking forward and choosing your path.
Just imagine if you will, trying to play Slay the Spire, but all the monsters are controlled by the guy across from you at a table. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, exactly.
But eventually you get to a point where the other guy across the table says, "Hey, can you grab this thing off a table for me?" And then you can stand up and walk around this cabin.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize, oh, this is more than just a little roguelike game, right?
Right. I do think that is your first real clue that in a very physical way, this is bigger than what I'm seeing on the card deck in front of me, in the play area.
Oh, it's super neat. Once you're up, it changes from you're playing this roguelike game to you're like solving puzzles now.
Right.
When you walk around the cabin, there's all kinds of little things to interact with, and you don't quite know what to do with them yet.
Right. I think the very first thing you'll see, if you go to the left, you're going to see a book that has all the rules in it that you can kind of page through. And most of that's not going to make sense to you at this point. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but the game does a really good job of feeding mechanics to you, like drip feeding those mechanics to you. So the book is probably going to be overkill. You might thumb through it, but there's not much for you to see unless you just really like reading rules.
Yeah.
Good on you if so.
You can get an idea for how to play the game right from the beginning, but I think it's more fun to go into it blind.
I think so. And a lot of those mechanics will be explained to you.
Yeah.
And then, so you'll go to your left, you'll see that. Most likely you'll turn around and go to the right, and the very first thing you're going to see is a locked safe. And, it's just screaming, do something with me. Like there's something here for you.
Yeah.
You can click on the lock, you can put in different combinations. Your DM, like, his eyes will follow you across the room the entire time. He's not, you're free to walk around the room, but
I think
you're very obviously like under supervision during this moment.
I think sometimes he'll be like, "Hey, sit down, let's play the game," but like he won't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was definitely scared to walk around the room at first. I mean, if it wasn't clear from the images, this game has a really, I don't want to say horrific vibe, but it's has a good atmosphere. It sets the tone. It's storming outside the cabin. You can kind of see that a little bit.
I wouldn't call it horror, but like atmospheric horror-esque.
The visuals and the music and everything kind of tells you that this is not a comfortable place to be. And you don't really know why, other than kind of the commanding presence of the guy you're playing cards with and just the atmosphere. At first, anyway.
And again, we've already said this, but it's very creepypasta, like creepypasta adjacent.
Yeah, it has, and I don't. Maybe some people think that that's a negative thing. I think that that's a huge positive. It kind of has the feeling of like a campfire story.
Yeah,
in that it's mysterious and not really explained, and it's very cool. It's very cool. If you'll see on the screen if you're watching the video version of this, but there's very heavy atmosphere and vibes in this show, this game.
If that's your thing, if you liked reading the creepypastas and like if you like those kinds of creepy stories about found footage and stuff, stop listening to this. Go play the game. Yeah. Definitely, you'll get a nice treat. It's really good.
Yeah, and it tends to be. This isn't an expensive game. No. It's usually like around $20. I think I got it on a Steam sale for like $3. So we heavily recommend it. If that kind of seems like something you're interested in, I think this is a game that really benefits from experiencing it firsthand.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Still really good though. Definitely check it out.
So yeah, there's a lot of puzzles and there's a lot of details in the cabin that you're kind of able to poke at and look at, but you're probably not going to find anything that you can really do at this point. So you go back and you sit down at the table, and this is a good point to like start talking about the card game itself.
Because at its core, with all that surrounding it, you have to get through the roguelike part. I'm pretty sure most of the puzzles might be not mandatory, optional, but the roguelike is very much mandatory. You have to get through this. At its core, it is a roguelike game.
Right. An emphasis on most of the puzzles are optional.
Yes.
More to come on that front. Yeah. So, let's talk about the card game. The basic like layout is you have 4 lanes of cards, 4 for you and then 4 for your opponent. And each turn you're able to draw either a card from your deck or a squirrel. And in order to play a card, you have to sacrifice a certain amount of other cards in order to play it.
Where like Slay the Spire has energy costs in this game, most of the useful cards have a blood cost. You have to sacrifice a certain amount of creatures on the board. And then you can sacrifice creatures to get onto the board. Right. So
I might sacrifice a squirrel to play the stoat, and then maybe later I'm going to want to play a wolf that costs 2 bloods, so I can play a squirrel and then sacrifice both the squirrel and the stoat, as I'm opt to do.
We sacrifice the stoat. We have to every time.
Maybe... Well, let's stick on the card component before we talk about that.
The 4 lanes that Sam brought up, you can place a creature in any one of those lanes, including squirrels. And each creature has a certain amount of HP and a certain amount of damage they deal. That's the only 2 stats in the game, honestly. And in order to win, you have to... Well, there's a scale on the left-hand side of the screen, and you have to get it to push to 5 whatever points in the other direction.
Right.
And it's not like you deal 4 damage this turn and then deal 1 damage next turn, you win. He's going to be dealing damage, which pushes the scale the other direction.
Right.
So it's like a game of tug of war, essentially.
Exactly. So if I do 2 damage on my turn, and then the next turn he does 1 damage to me, that's going to take the first turn, the scale will go to 2 in my favor, and then go back 1 toward his favor. So you understand the concept of a scale. I don't think I need to explain that to our audience.
Yeah.
It's very the visualization of a scale does a lot to kind of convey that concept.
And the way to deal damage, you put a creature in an empty lane. So if you put a creature in your lane and the other lane across from him is empty, you'll deal damage straight to the scale.
Right.
If you want to stop damage from happening, put a creature in front of an enemy creature, and they'll take the damage, not you. And it's a really basic setup for a game, but it just works.
It's very clean. It's very, very easy to understand. And that's something, there's a lot of mechanics that we're not talking about right now.
Yeah.
But that's how the game starts you out. This is about all the information you have and all of the mechanics that you're going to be exposed to at first. Other than maybe, I think sigils are a part of the first round.
I think so.
So some cards will have a little marker beneath the character, and that will be an additional effect that card has. So a very common one is if you have a bird, card, you might have like a wing symbol on it, and that means that the bird will be flying, and when it attacks, it will attack you directly rather than attacking the card in front of it. Right.
And there are, I don't know how many sigils. I feel like that's something we could have done a little look up on.
I honestly don't know how many. I couldn't tell you. I don't think we ran into them all, to be honest.
Some like 20 maybe.
There's something. There's several. There's several sigils.
A bunch of different things, and it gets rid of the need for a card to have a description, like a lot of games do, like a lot of card games do. Like you'll have a card, and it'll have a whole ass description on it telling you what it does. This game, you don't need that. It has attack, it has damage, and it has a special ability that it can do.
Right.
And any card could eventually get that, but again, more mechanics for later.
Right. So something you were mentioning, the sigils, it could be a lot to learn all at once if the game wasn't as smart as it was, if Daniel Mullins wasn't such a good designer, because I mentioned the book of rules. Something that the game does is if you see a sigil or anything in the game that you don't really understand, you right click on it, and then your character will reach over and pull out the book of rules and flip to the page associated with that thing. Again, it's very diegetic. It all kind of fits in with the theming and the theming of the world. So that makes it really nice. It makes it feel not overwhelming. I don't know if you knew this, CJ, but Daniel Mullins was very inspired by Pokemon for the design of the base card game.
Oh, nice. I did not know that.
So I'm pretty sure the sigils are at least partially based on the ability system in Pokemon, which in my opinion is one of the most interesting things about the game from a competitive standpoint.
Interesting. It makes so much sense now, though. Like, it's just like a twisted Pokemon where you have animals fighting other animals.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's really great. And if you've played Pokemon and you're like, oh yeah, I get how to do this. It's very similar in Inscryption. You can just play it and get it without really needing to get lost. Like, you can get lost in the sauce. You can learn all of these mechanics and rules, but you don't need to start playing. Which is, as people who've made games, like high praise in being able to like convey the basic mechanics of a game and get people started so quickly. It's really great.
Let's talk about, earlier you were talking about how it drip feeds you stuff, mechanics and whatnot. I want to talk about how Inscryption as a roguelike is very special in that Inscryption wants you to beat the game.
Right.
A lot of roguelikes, we're going to talk about Slay the Spire all the time in this episode, but Slay the Spire, you unlock stuff like a roguelite. You unlock stuff per run, and sometimes it makes it easier, but most of the times it just makes it more complex.
Right.
Inscryption, as you progress through the game and you unlock stuff per run, it more often than not makes the next run easier.
Right.
It still also makes it more complex, but more often than not, it's making it a lot easier.
Right.
Inscryption wants you to beat it. It's a really special roguelike.
Yeah, I completely agree. And kind of to give an example of what you were saying, in roguelikes, often when you're adding more mechanics or more items, it is inherently making the game more difficult. On one hand, because that's an additional mechanic or item that you have to become familiar with. But for a game like Risk of Rain, when you first start playing, the game is actually easier than it would be in later runs because one of the main ways to do really well in Risk of Rain is to stack items. So a little bit of context, Risk of Rain is a roguelike platformer game where you can run around and open chests that get you items that can help you defeat enemies better, that then help you get further toward the end of the game. One of the best strategies in the game is just to get a bunch of the same item because it stacks.
The soldier syringe, I believe it is.
Soldier syringe increases your attack speed and like not regeneration,
something
like cooldown time.
Yeah.
So you can just attack faster.
Yeah.
When you first start playing Risk of Rain, that is one of the like 10 items that you have access to. So it's really easy to just get, 50 soldier syringes and you're a god. Like it is so much easier to get those good stacks. Or even like one of the first times I beat the game was I went all in on an item called Head Stompers that lets you stomp on enemies' heads. You do one, it doesn't really matter. If you have like 50 of them, you're one-hitting bosses by like jumping on them. It's awesome. But as you play the game more and as you're getting more items, you're not able to stack and you have to engage with these other items and understand what they do a little bit more. So I think the game kind of has this hidden difficulty curve that, not necessarily hidden, but it's just not apparent until you've played more of the game.
I don't think it was like, it might have been, but I don't think it was intended, right? It wasn't intended to make the game harder. It was supposed to give you more stuff, but it had the unintended effect of making it harder.
Right.
I feel like, maybe.
I think so. I wouldn't say it's intended, but I do think it's one of the... It's very interesting in that a lot of games, as you're unlocking more items, you get more powerful, and the only way the game gets more difficult is to give you harder enemies. Risk of Rain, when you get to the last level, the enemies are harder, but every time you do a run, you're starting out with the same level of enemy, but your 50th run is most likely going to be more difficult than your first run because of the way the items are distributed. And that's just really neat. It's one of the few games that I feel like becomes more difficult as you get better at the game, just naturally. It's a very clean implementation of a difficulty curve. Can you think of another example of something where that would happen?
That is kind of the case in a little game called Dead Cells that I love. Dead Cells also a roguelike, but it's like a Metroidvania-esque roguelike.
Okay.
So much so that it has a Castlevania DLC. But in that game, you unlock like weapons and you unlock new paths per run. Like there's some stuff you just can't get to until a later run, and that can make it harder. But they have a cool thing. They have a custom mode where you can like turn off items for a run just to try breaking the game as much as you want.
Right.
It's really cool.
I wish Risk of Rain had something like that. That sounds super fun.
That would be neat. But that's why Inscryption is so special, because it like flips that on its head, where the more you unlock, the easier it is. It wants you to beat it. It doesn't want you to keep playing through it over and over. I mean, there's benefits to doing that. There's stuff you get for doing that, but it wants you to get to the end eventually. Right.
And that'll be a little bit more clear once we get into the spoiler section. But yeah, you're exactly right. It wants you to keep making progress. And it adds complexity, which is a layer of difficulty, like learning the mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
But if you interact with the mechanics, if you engage with them the way that Daniel Mullins wants you to engage with them.
Just like God intended.
As God intended, the game will be easier.
Yeah.
And I think we should like start talking about that specifically now. So one of the first things that happens when you get past your first run, you inevitably die. Or you're like us and we're gods.
God tier gamers.
Turns out 2 heads are better than 1. When 2 people are playing Inscryption, you tend to just miss less stuff and you do pretty well. We got to a point in the first run that was further than what you were supposed to get. And the DM explicitly tells you so.
Yeah. I think you get to the second boss. No, I think it's still the first boss, right? I don't think you're supposed to beat the first boss or the second boss. If you want to know that information that I don't know, go back and watch our VODs. One of the first 2 bosses, if you get to him in the first run, and each boss has 2 lives, if you beat his first life, his second life, he'll say, too soon, is all he'll say, and then he'll lay down a wall of bear animals that you just really can't beat if you're inexperienced with the game. I've seen people beat it, but...
You would have to be insane. Like you would have to be incredibly talented at the game and have some pretty good RNG in terms of like the cards that you drew.
Exactly.
But I think bears are 6 attack, 3 health or 2 health.
Something like that.
You can laugh at us as the correct number appears on screen behind us.
Right now.
Right now. Oh.
But he Daniel Mullins does that for a very specific reason, because you've gotten to this point without unlocking some of the other mechanics that are supposed to be in the game.
Right. And like major mechanics.
Yeah.
So the first one, after you go through the first round, the next thing you're going to unlock is the bones. And the bones are kind of like the other side of the coin to the blood. So when you sacrifice a card, you're able to use its blood to play another card. However, every time you sacrifice a card, you get 1 bone.
Or every time one dies. It doesn't have to be sacrificed.
Yes. Dies or sacrifices. Well, because sacrificing, you are killing the card.
Yeah, it's dead.
It is dying. And so it's a very interesting mechanic in that it gives you another way. You know, it's like a different mana pool.
Yeah,
you have blood and bones.
Let me get ahead of that. The bones, like, you use bones to summon certain creatures. Some creatures don't require blood, they require bones.
Right. And I think a good way to explain like why you need to engage with the mechanics is our first 2 runs once bones were unlocked. The first one, we didn't use them at all. By the time we got toward the end of that run, we would just have like a massive pile of bones that are like spilling over, completely unused. Maybe we have 1 bone card that gets used. And we didn't get very far because we're not engaging with that mechanic. And then the next time we tried to go all in on bones without really engaging with the blood mechanic as much, and we weren't able to play anything because it was all bone.
We were boned. But yeah, that was our first 2 runs with the bones. We could not. And then eventually we were like, what if we just have some bone cards, have some blood cards? And that worked out really well. They like complement each other really well.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Exactly.
It's a very elegant system of balancing bone and blood, and I think the way that you succeed in the game is by engaging with this mechanic as it's meant to be, as this like balanced system.
But I would say after the bones, the next big mechanic that you'd run into is the trapper and the trader.
So the game is kind of expecting you. I don't know if this is actually gated, but well, we'll just say the first. We haven't really talked about bosses. I guess we don't really need to. So you get to a certain point and you unlock the trapper and the trader, and it introduces the system of pelts in the game.
we'll talk about bosses like in the spoilery section because there's some lore relevance to them, I think. But the Trapper and the Trader, they are spots on the map that you can get to, like a shop in Slay the Spire. You go to the Trapper first, right?
Yes.
And then, so another small mechanic are teeth.
Right. So, CJ, you mentioned earlier that you have points or something that go onto the scale. It ain't points.
No.
You're putting these like metal teeth into the scale. And there are items in the game, and we can get into more detail with those, but there is an item that is just a pair of pliers. And, when you need to tip the scales a little bit in your favor and you don't have enough teeth from dealing damage, well, the DM is happy to offer you another way to get some extra teeth on the board with some lovely graphics that play along with it.
But yeah, the teeth are what tips the scale. They are the points I alluded to earlier. And if you manage to overkill anytime that you're playing the roguelike section, if you manage to overkill, get more than 5 points on the scale, you get to keep those extra teeth.
Right.
And then when you get to the Trapper, you can trade the teeth for pelts, which on a first run, we were like, why? What's the point?
Right. A pelt is a card that you add to your hand that is like 1 health and does no attack.
Yep.
And it is, the pelt of an animal.
Exactly.
Often the animals that you are using in your cards, you have a wolf in your hand, you'll have a wolf pelt. So.
And it's like, it's permanently added to your deck, and you're thinking, I guess this is just like a shield you can put down. You can put it down to soak up some damage. That's all it is.
Right.
But then you learn later that you meet the Trader, another character that you meet down the line. And you can trade those pelts for really good cards.
Yes. I don't remember what the exact ratio is, but if you have a significant number of pelts, you can get some pretty rare and powerful cards. Things like dealing 2 damage to both people adjacent to you in like a diagonal. Rare sigils, lots of interesting mechanics that you might not run into otherwise in the game come through this mechanic. And this is another instance of you're rewarded for engaging with this mechanic because you can choose to be like, why would I add these cards to my deck?
Which I think we did.
I'm sure we did. We maybe got 1 or 2.
That's why we're hitting on this, by the way, because we didn't. We were like, why would we want this? We're just going to play it safe and get like 1 pelt.
Right. And then you get to the Trader, and you're not really like, you might get 1 or 2 cards, but engaging with this mechanic gets you things that you wouldn't have otherwise and makes the game easier because now you have access to that. Additionally, it kind of makes you think a little bit differently about the game because you'll be toward the end of the turn. I'm like, okay, I know I can kill him next turn, but if I maybe delay killing him this turn, I know I can kind of see what he's going to do next turn. If I can delay it and then get out another card, I can get, 3 extra teeth into my deck.
Exactly.
And that's more cards, more pelts, more cards for the Trader. It's a very cool mechanic.
Oh, it's like, it's high risk, high reward because you're like, yeah, sure, I could add these, like, I could add no dead weight cards to my thing, but I won't get good cards later. Or I could add like 50 dead weight cards that will do nothing if I draw them from my deck. But later on, they'll be really good. I just have to survive that long.
Right.
It's really neat. And I don't think we did too much with it when we first learned about it. We're like, why would we do this? Why would we ever do this? A recurring theme here is, why would we do this? Oh, because it's good.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to all of that, it pays off in a different way.
Right.
Much later in the game that we'll talk about here in a minute.
Right. And then after the Trapper and the Trader, there was one last big mechanic that really helped us get to the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The woodcarver.
The woodcarver. So in boss battles, something that you'll see the DM do is, sorry, not the boss battles. There are options in the game. There are paths where you'll see like.
They're
an elite, I think would be a good way.
That's what they are in Slay the Spire. They're basically elites.
It's an elite fight. It's a harder fight that you get some kind of a reward for. Honestly, I can't remember what it was. I couldn't remember when we were playing because there wasn't a whole lot of incentive to do them. Besides the point. So you can go into these elite fights, and something that you'll see is he takes these two wooden pieces and kind of screws them together, and then that has an effect on all of the cards that match the type of that wood carving. So it might be a carving of a wolf, and all of the wolves or wolf-like cards will now have a bonus applied to them, a bonus sigil applied to them.
I think one of the first ones we got was the bottom part of the totem. The body of the totem was a flying sigil. It had a flying sigil on it, and the top was a dog's head. So all of his canine creatures were able to fly now.
Yeah. They
could just attack over all of our creatures, and we thought, oh no.
Yeah, it is kind of a busted mechanic, and is why those elite fights are so difficult. Now, and if it wasn't clear, the flying mechanic, they're above you. You can't. No, they will deal direct damage to you. You can't block their hit. You can still hit them, but you're not able to block their attack unless you have a card with a aerial blocking sigil.
It's it again adds a whole new layer to this really simple game, but it's really good.
It's really good.
It's really good.
So the woodcarver, you now are able to interact with that mechanic. You first get a base or a head. I think you can get either one.
Yeah.
You can either get a head or a base, and you can't do anything with it. But next time you go to the woodcarver on your map as you're progressing, you can take the other piece. So and then you can, maybe you'll have a wolf head or a bug or a bird, and whatever sigil is on that bottom piece will apply to whatever animal type corresponds with it. Kin is the name.
Yeah. Whatever kin it is.
Kin, not Ke. I'm just kin.
Oh my God, dude, I had that song stuck in my head for weeks after that movie.
It's still stuck in my head, dude.
But yeah, the woodcarver, you meet them the first time. They lay out 3 options for you to pick. Either any of those 3 options could be either a head or a body of a totem. And then you pick one, and then the next time you meet them, it is in your best interest to pick the other side, either a head or a body, because you can't do anything with 2 bodies or 2 heads.
Right.
But that right there changes the entire game, especially when you unlock a certain thing that we're going to talk about in the heavy spoiler section.
Right. Which
I think we're about there, right?
Yeah, I think so. So if you got to this point, you haven't played Inscryption, and you're interested at all, this is where you stop.
Yes.
Because, actually, there's one more thing that I think is okay to talk about, and that is the talking cards.
Oh yeah.
Because this is gonna be your hook into the story stuff. This is how those are introduced to you. So I think the first one you're introduced to is the Stoat, who is this ugly little hateful rat who constantly criticizes you for playing the cards. You just one of the cards in your hand, up by his name, it'll read text to you. He's annoying. He's evil. I hate him. He smells bad. We hate the Stoat. I sacrifice him every chance that I get. But he's giving you some information about what's going on with the story. He's giving you cryptic hints about Do you remember like what some of the clues that he's giving to you at this early point in the game?
I think he was like, I don't think any of it was useful. Most of the time he's like, play me or don't sacrifice me or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Giving something like, here we go again, like, a new person.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh, this guy again when you're fighting a boss. And it's the first time you've fought it, but he's obviously letting you know that he's already been through this.
Right.
Again, you're continuing someone else's old save.
Right. And that's another thing that we should talk about is what happens when you die.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple different mechanics we actually need to talk about to fully explain this. So in the game, you're able to upgrade your cards as options on the map, right? And there's a couple different ways to do this. Do you want to talk about maybe the campfire?
Okay. So there is a campfire that you can go to on the map, and it looks like Slay the Spire campfire, but you don't heal, or you only get to upgrade there. When you go there, there's going to be a little sign on the ground near the campfire that says either plus attack or plus HP. And we figured out that you place a card there and it'll get that upgrade or it'll die. It happened to us, right?
It did, but the chance of it killing your card is very, very, very low.
I've watched like 2 separate people play through Inscryption before playing through it with Sam, and I had never seen that happen. So when it happened to us, I was really surprised. It is a really low chance that it can happen, but it can happen.
There is a mechanic later on in the game where you're able to kind of push your luck. So the theming around this is you're sitting by the campfire, and there are a bunch of people gathered around the campfire, and they look really hungry. And you can set one of your animals by the fire to warm up at the risk of them having their dinner.
Yes.
So most of the time it's like they're looking hungry and banging their forks, but you get away. But there's an option later on where it's like you can choose to sit by the fire a little bit longer and get more health or more damage or more defense at the risk of them taking a chomp on our stoat, which we were happy to let them do.
That's right. I remember that now. Yeah, I forgot that's how it worked.
So there's this idea of being able to upgrade your card's attack and defense that persist between rounds. Not runs, but like individual matches within the thing.
And on top of that, there's also a sacrificial altar that you can find. And at these altars, you place 2 cards, one to be sacrificed and one to be upgraded. And the one you sacrifice gives its sigil to the one you want to upgrade.
Right.
But that can only you can only upgrade a card like that once, right?
Right.
So the flying sigil of a bird, if you want to sacrifice your bird and give the stoat the ability to fly, there's a space on the board that lets you do that.
Actually, I think you can do it twice. I think you can receive 2 sigils.
Oh, okay.
Because there's the one that goes into the bottom section, and if you add one more, they like staple an additional sigil into the top corner.
Right.
I believe you can do it twice.
Right. Well, you can only upgrade them at that altar once, but they can have more than one sigil if they've already got a sigil, I believe.
Okay, you're probably right.
I think. I think that's how that works.
So that is a really cool... The altar is the one we use the most often because you get the dual effect of upgrading one card and removing another card.
Yes.
And CJ, you might have a thing or two to say about deck bloat as like a concept.
Yes, deck bloat is a big thing in any kind of roguelike deck building game. And it's why Slay the Spire is so good in that you can skip picking a card at the end of a battle. Where a lot of roguelikes I've played, you can't do that. Inscryption included, when you get the ability to select a card, you can't just skip it. You have to take that card. And that leads to deck bloat, where you have too many cards and you can never draw the good ones.
Right.
So at the sacrificial altar, like Sam said, it's got the dual efficiency of being able to upgrade a card and get rid of a useless one.
Yep. It's great. I think we took it more often than any other thing. And you can really come up with some interesting and awesome mechanics. And to tee up for our little meta narrative, very early on, very early on in our playthrough, it was either our first or second run, we had a card that we just kept upgrading over and over again, and it had something like 4 attack and 6 health.
I think
was it the stoat? I think it was the stoat.
It might have been the stoat.
I think we just kept going all in on the stoat, right?
Yeah, we didn't know that it won't die yet. We're like, sacrifice, kill it.
Yeah.
But
we were like, there's always a chance if it dies, and then we hated the stoat because he's a jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was the meme of like, let's put the stoat by the fire. Who cares? So it ended up becoming like insanely strong. It cost 1 blood and had 4 attack and 6 health. It was a great card. And then there is another card, the Black Cat, that is really interesting in that its sigil will let you kill it and then it returns to your hand, right?
Yes. No. It lets you can just sacrifice it infinitely and it won't die.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so you put it on the board and you sacrifice it for 1 blood and it stays on the board. Yeah. It can still be killed in combat, but it's kind of like a permanent squirrel.
Yeah.
So you can play your higher value cards. That leads pretty well into like finally getting around to what happens when you die.
There's one more card we got to touch on too.
Okay.
The all-powerful Gek.
Ah, yes, the Gek.
So at the end of a boss battle, you get to pick one legendary, like super powerful card. And I think one of the first ones we picked was the Gek. The Gek is a 0-cost card that only deals 1 damage and has 1 health, and it was lumped in with these legendary like 7 damage cards, or this card that attacks 3 lanes at once. And we were like, why wouldn't we pick the Gek? Look at him.
And
we'll show a picture of him on screen. He looks amazing.
Take a look. We love the Gek.
He's
the
so
Gek,
good.
like, come on.
How could you not love him?
We love the Gek. So we took the Gek. And you know, it's genuinely useful to be able to throw out a card that doesn't cost anything.
He's like squirrels don't cost anything, so he's like a squirrel that does damage.
Yeah. So we die. And what exactly happens when we die?
When you die, you get to make what is called a death card. Okay, so the first time you die, you learn, again, here's where the spoiler section starts, I think. You learn how exactly the DM guy is making these cards that you're playing with. He is using a camera to take pictures of these animals, and these animals become the cards. And they're basically dead at this point, I guess.
Yes.
So at the end of the game, when you die, he makes a card of you, your character.
Yeah. When you die in the game, you die in real life.
Exactly.
In like one of the 4 levels of meta in this game. When your character loses at the cards, the DM leads you into this very cursed back room, and he takes your picture for your death card. But you get to make some modifications to the card, and those come from you're basically like pulling elements from your deck that you've created and making a card. I think you get to pick the sigils, the attack and defense, and the cost. And every time you get, he'll lay out 3 cards, and he's like, okay, from these 3, pick which one you want to pull the sigils from. And then another 3 cards, pick which one you want to pull the attack and defense. And then from this one, pick the cost.
And it's, again, he just randomly picks 3 of the cards from your deck and lets you do that for each one for those 3 different options for a card. And we got super lucky.
We got an immaculate roll. So we got the damage and attack from the stoat, 4 and 6, or damage and health. We got the ability, the sigil from the cat, allowing us to sacrifice it infinitely. And we got the cost of the Gek, which was nothing.
Free card.
A free card that could be sacrificed infinitely to play other cards, had 6 health and did 4 attack.
It was so good.
We named it Sam. That's me.
That had to have been the first death then, right? Because you were like, we're going to name it Sam because Sam's the one playing the game.
I think it may have been the first, maybe the second. It may have been the first because we did really well on our first playthrough, and it wouldn't surprise me if we had that many good cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got the Wall of Bears, so like we did pretty freaking great.
Yeah, and so as we discuss more in this game, well, Sam and whatever your death card is will be shuffled into the available cards going forward. So that like firmly makes this a roguelite in that you're able to change something between runs, and part of that is your card, which appears. You don't get it. You won't necessarily get it every time, but you will when you get to draw random cards that you add to your deck, which is one of the options in the in the map. You know, sometimes you can pick a random card. You have a chance to get your death card, and well, let's just say we were quite pleased every time we drew Sam.
Sam was our god card. Sam was our go-to card. We could ever get Sam, we would get Sam.
I believe it was the very next run that we also did incredibly well because we drew Sam within the first couple of rounds. And the mechanic we learned about later that is never fully explained. I think CJ ended up looking this up. Is when you during your first hand, the game is set up to where you will always have a card that you can play with one squirrel. But if you have a 0 cost card, that the odds of that one coming up are very high. I don't know if it's 100%. I don't think it is.
I think it's because in our last run, we had a bunch of high cost or bone cost cards, and then we had Sam. Or we had Sam and the Gek, which were both free, and we were always getting the Gek because he's free.
And so as anytime we would get Sam, not only would we be able to like do really well with it, we also almost always drew it on the first turn, which is doing 4 damage. We get a squirrel and Sam. We're able to play a 2-cost card. Oftentimes we were able to win on the first turn. Like it was an incredibly busted card. And watch our VOD if you're interested in seeing more of this playthrough. But that was just like one of the magical things about Inscryption is getting to create these insane cards that breaks the game. That's the best part of any deck builder, in my opinion. It's just putting something together that destroys the mechanics.
Any game that's like break me is a good game.
Yeah, exactly.
Any game that wants to be broken is a good game.
All right, so I think those are really the mechanics in summary. We haven't touched every single detail, but those are the ones we wanted to talk about. I think now we're going to start talking about the narrative and more of the story. So this is your chance. This is like genuinely, I am remiss to say leave the video, but leave the video if you want to keep watching it. And go watch one of ours. Go play it yourself. Go pay for it and then watch our VOD. However you see fit. This is a game that is a fantastic experience, and getting some of these twists that we're going to talk about are great, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to do them the justice that the game will.
We're going to try our damnedest, but
you can't talk about Inscryption without talking about them. So
like Sam said, going into it, he knew nothing about Inscryption except that there was a twist.
So
and it still got it really good.
Oh man, did it get fun. Me? So we're if that's you, bye, and then come back once you've beaten Inscryption. Welcome back. You're here. You're ready. Wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that a crazy thing that just happened? Now we're gonna talk about it.
All right. So. Quick walkthrough of Act 1. That's right, you heard me right. Act 1.
Act 1.
First, you get the stink bug from the safe. The stink bug's one of the other talking cards you can get. And then you do the wardrobe puzzle. You get the caged wolf and the dagger, which we're going to talk about the dagger after I get through this little walkthrough part. The caged wolf, no, it's not the talking creature. You have to use the caged wolf to get the dagger, right? I believe so. I think.
Okay. Yes. So there is in the room physically is a wolf in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to, once you play the caged wolf card and it dies, it is released from the cage, and then the wolf in the room is also released from the cage, which allows you to complete that puzzle and get the dagger.
Mm-hmm. And once you get the dagger, you use the dagger at any point in the game. It's like pliers, except they're really, really good. You put your whole ass eyeball on the scale, and it tips at, 2 or 3, I think?
Yeah.
And
almost any point in the game.
Almost any point in the game. We'll get to that. And then once you've done that, after the fight's over, he's like, you don't look so good. Here, have an extra eye. And he hands you a box of eyes. Again, very diegetic here. And there's just a bunch of eyes in a box, and they all look weird. One of them's like a goat eye.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is very, very different, though. It's like glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it might as well be holding up a sign that says, like, pick me, pick me.
Exactly.
There's an obvious choice.
Exactly. And then you get that eye, and then suddenly when you stand up to walk around the cabin, you can see like glowing ink everywhere, stuff that you could not see before. Like some of them are answers to puzzles. Some of it's like an arrow saying, look here, do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You use that to go to the clock that's like behind you, I think.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Second clock puzzle, actually.
Yeah. The first, you can solve there's a clock puzzle that you can solve, and you're like, oh, that's all I'm going to do with the clock until you use your eye, your third eye. And then you go back there and you solve the clock puzzle again, and you get some film. When you beat the game the first time, like we did, Leshy's like, all right, here's the here, give me that camera. So you're supposed to hand him the camera. You have the option to try to take a picture of him, but you can't because there's no film in the camera.
Right.
You use the eye to get some film, so you actually beat the game the right way.
Right.
And that's how you beat the game.
That's like a brief, very brief summary.
Very rough summary of Act 1, yeah.
So I wanted to touch on a couple things in that list. Number 1 is the wardrobe puzzle.
Okay.
Which I believe is not entirely optional. There's 2 levels. There's like 2 drawers. It's a big wardrobe, and it has like certain layouts of a game of Inscryption of the cards on the deck, and you have to like move them around in a certain configuration where it like lines up to equal a certain amount of damage being dealt. It's a really cool puzzle, and if you do it, it teaches you about the game and kind of like makes you think about the mechanics in a really interesting way. I really like that puzzle. But if you're willing to engage with it more and do a more difficult version of the puzzle, you unlock the second drawer, which contains the squirrel head, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
Which is part of that totem that will now affect every squirrel that you play. Well, we'll talk about that more in a minute. I think we have, now that we're talking spoilers, like we need to talk about the bosses. Right.
First boss you get to, the Prospector.
And we're in the spoiler section now. We're just gonna. He's not the DM. His name is Leshy. That's the name of the character.
Yeah.
So Leshy pulls out a mask and he puts it on, and he starts acting like this Prospector character. There's gold in them cards.
It's really good.
Thank you. I do a Prospector voice every now and then. Just I don't know.
It's the one go-to voice. No, I get it.
Yeah, it's fun. I see gold in real life, and I go, "Ooh, there's gold in them things." Anyway,
there's gold in them teeth. Catch Sam yanking gold teeth out of people. But yeah, no, the Prospector's the first guy you meet, and like Sam said, it's just Leshy putting on a mask and pretending to be the boss. Same thing with every NPC you meet: the trapper, the trader, and the woodcarver. They're all just Leshy putting on a mask.
But he refers to them as if they were another person. He refers to them like, oh, you're going to meet the trapper. You're going to meet the trader here. Now you have to go talk to the prospector. The angler will be mad if you don't do this. You know, there's a lot. That's just an important element that's kind of teasing things later in the game. So the prospector is the first one. So you have 2 lives in Inscryption, where you can die once, and you can still keep going. If you die again, game over, except during the bosses, where you only have 1 life.
Right.
And there's some mechanics like with that, with the greater smoke. We can't get into every single detail of the card game, but
basically every boss, you have 1 life, but they have 2, and once you've killed their first life, they pull some BS out of their hat.
Yes,
that makes the boss really annoying and hard.
It's really hard to beat the boss on your first try if you don't know what to expect with the mechanics.
Exactly.
It gets a lot easier once you know what to expect and you know how it's going to work. But man, if you beat it on the first try, like, I commend you. I think we beat the prospector on our first try. So
I think so. His wasn't too bad, but like, he's the first one.
Right.
That's why.
Right. The prospector, when it hits its second phase, he shouts, "There's gold in them cards!" And every single card that you have on the field turns into a gold nugget that is 2 health or 1 health and does no damage. And those cards are gone.
Yep.
You cannot use them. And I'm pretty sure he turned Sam into a gold card.
Yeah.
You get them in the next round, but like you're unable to. That's gone for the rest of the round. So
his not too bad, honestly.
No. As long as you have other cards in reserve, you'll be fine. He also has the pack mule in the first phase.
Oh yeah, the pack mule.
I believe that's something that the stoat tells you. It's like, you got to kill that pack mule.
Yes, yeah. He's like, the pack mule is the key, I think, is the actual quote that the stoat says. And then killing the pack mule. You really don't need the stoat. If you look not too closely, the pack mule's sitting on like an envelope or something. And if you kill the pack mule, it adds a bunch of really good cards to your hand and some not so good ones, like the toad.
And then it helps offset that.
Yeah.
When all of your good cards are taken away, now you have some other ones that are already in your hand, not just shuffled into your deck.
Yeah.
So the prospector, not too bad.
But I don't get used to that. I believe that's the only boss that has a little nugget of like helpfulness to him. I think the rest of them are just, the first round's tough and the second round's ass.
Yeah. The second one is the angler.
Good old angler.
The good old angler. The first round, what he does is he will use his hook and take cards from your side onto his. It sucks, and you'll have your cards like, your best card. Now it's fighting for him.
Yep.
And then once you beat the first round, is it every card on your side or every card on his side becomes chum?
Every card on his side becomes chum, like a chum bucket. And if you kill the chum bucket, it spawns a shark, which is 4/6, like 4 attack, 6 HP or something.
Yeah, it's like an incredibly strong card.
And it has the swim sigil, so you can't attack a swimming creature on your turn. You have to hit the player.
Correct.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
His was hard. His was kind of BS.
The angler was hard. It was BS. I think we lost to the angler at least once.
I think so, yeah.
And then the last boss are, surprise, surprise, the trapper and the trader.
Yeah, the people that have been helping you thus far are now a boss you have to fight.
And in like one of the coolest moments in the game, you realize that the trapper is just the trader's mask upside down.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool. I didn't catch it the first time. Like, it completely caught me off guard. It was great.
Yeah, it's genius because we talked about earlier the pelts. You can give them to the trader when you meet them later and get some pretty good cards. Well, here you fight the trapper and you're thinking, oh, the trapper's the third boss. Neat. You beat the trapper. He flips his head upside down. Oh, it's the trader. The trader puts a load of BS cards on their side.
Like the strongest cards in the game.
Yeah, insane. Every one of them have at least 1 or 2 sigils.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, any pelts you still have in your deck, you can trade me for any of these cards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you're going to have to fight them all.
Yep.
It's such a cool moment in the game.
It is great. And again, it like really pays off that pelt system at the end, where if you chose not to engage with it, the game would be significantly more difficult for you.
I think we discovered on our last run that you do get a pity pelt.
You do. If you don't have any. We weren't choosing to not engage with the pelts. We just didn't have any. We just didn't have enough teeth.
Didn't need any either. Like, go watch our last run. Sam ascended to godhood in that one. I'm not talking about the Sam I'm talking to right now.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in a minute. So once you beat the trapper and the trader, then you kind of enter a different mode in the game. You have one more decision that you get to make, like one more, either a sacrifice or the wood carver or some, you get one more option, and then you go to the last skull, and then it takes you out of the cabin into the woods, and you see like a glowing square in the distance. And all you can still look around, and you can walk forward. That's all you can do.
And as you're walking, you have to pass 3 trials?
Yeah. I think it's 2.
2 trials based on what you have in your deck. And if you pass those trials, like one trial lets you pick between 3 different challenges. One challenge being, I'm going to draw 3 cards from your deck. If they total up to 5 or more blood, then you pass the trial.
Right.
Those kinds of challenges. You get 2 trials, and passing either one of those will give you a really, really good boon for the final boss fight.
Right. And boons are not really a mechanic that is used much outside of this final fight.
Yeah.
It's basically like a little bonus that you can get on every turn. One of them is like allowing you to draw twice at the beginning of every turn, or allowing you to pick which card you draw at the beginning of every turn. There's some other mechanics, but I think those are the ones we used most often.
As I said, Inscryption is a roguelike that wants you to beat it. So it's giving you all this. If you've put in the legwork, it's going to give you all this really good stuff to finish the game and not die at the very end like most roguelikes will.
Right. That being said, the final fight is not difficult, or is not easy. Sorry. I said the opposite of what I meant.
It's not easy, but we were talking about this earlier. It is a bit underwhelming. Or it can be.
The first round, I think, is tricky. The second round is not, I would say.
I think the second round's like I don't know what they're called, like a gimmick boss, like the ball at the end of Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you made it this far. You have to think about the mechanics in a slightly different way, but like you're going to win if you made it this far. The real challenge is like the first phase.
Yes.
Which is all of the bosses you
really
faced
good.
previously. And there, Lechi will put on different masks that allow you to... different masks that will trigger their effects. So he might put on the Angler mask and then grab one of your cards, or put on the Prospector mask and turn all your cards into gold. It's pretty intense.
Can we talk about the visuals for this final boss fight? Every single one of the boss fights leading up to this are Leshy's darkened figure holding the mask up to his face. This boss fight, you see Leshy again. Behind him is the freaking moon, the night sky. You're no longer in the cabin. And the masks are sort of just floating in a line in front of him, constantly changing. It's this, and the music, freaking really good final fight.
It is great. And you see Leshy for the first time. You
Yeah.
see his face. He's like this twiggy tree man with mushrooms growing out of his beard, and
He's Treebeard from Lord of the Rings. That's what he is.
he's what I described in the game as a handsome man.
Very handsome boy.
I love Leshy. I love the way I love his design. Just a dirty little forest man. He's great.
Yeah.
So CJ mentioned you're outside. You can see the beautiful moon in the sky, and once you defeat the first phase, he's like, I think I'm going to need something a little stronger, and takes a picture of the moon and puts a giant card that takes all 4 squares, all 4 rows, called the moon. And you have to, it does a bunch of stuff. I don't honestly remember all the effects, but it does 1 damage, but it has 40 health.
Yep.
And so it's just kind of like a slugfest, and to see how quickly you can defeat the moon.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It blocks flying, so you can't just fly over the moon and hit Leshy straight away. You still have to tip the scale to 5, like you've always had to. But now you've got to get through this 40 HP giant card that you can attack with all 4 of your spaces. And it can attack all 4 of your spaces
At once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, maybe like a touch, not underwhelming, but it's not super difficult because it's only doing 1 damage to all 4 of your cards. Unless you're a glass tank deck,
Yeah.
you probably got this.
I don't think did we ever lose to the moon?
No.
I don't think we lost to I think we lost to his I don't even think we lost to the first boss fight. I think we pulled through.
Yeah, just by the skin of our teeth.
Yeah. But the moon was nothing. It's really cool. The visuals are amazing.
The music is amazing.
Oh, the music's so good. The moon. I think it's called The Moon on Spotify. It's a really good track. But other than that, the moon itself was like not too bad of a boss fight, honestly.
No. And like I said, that's not a criticism. It's just it's nothing insanely difficult. The insanely difficult part is the first round of the fight, and this one is like the cool visuals to
it's a spectacle fight. It's really good.
And then what's your reward for beating Leshy? What do you get?
I think I said this earlier, but you just die. He kills you yet again.
You get a little present. He gives you
what?
He gives you a little snack for beating him.
Oh,
you seem
the pile of meat.
Yeah. He brings out, he's like, you look so hungry after defeating me. Here's a little treat for you. And it's like a big nondescript pile of meat with a candle inside of it.
I forgot about the pile of meat. I thought you were talking about the little card. You get a little a picture of yourself that mom hangs on the refrigerator for you at the end.
Yeah.
You also get that.
Yeah, you get to make your death card again, but and he hangs it up on the wall.
Yeah.
Which you can see as you like walk around the cabin.
Yeah.
But it's yeah.
But that's it.
You die.
That's it. Yeah, he takes a picture of you. You get the chance to try and take a picture of him, but there's no film on the camera, so that's it. You beat the game. It's over. Or is it? Hey, Vsauce Michael here. But no, Sam thought it was completely over. He was asking me, he's like, are you sure we're going to have enough to stream on our next stream? Because we just beat Leshy the first time. I'm like, there might be a little bit left. We'll see.
You do get a little something for beating him the first time. You probably, if you made it to this point in the game, you probably forgot about when you first started. There is a person playing Inscryption that is not you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this completely.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird, and I don't exactly understand all of it, which we'll explain later. There's a lot to this game.
Yes,
and so you unlock like a menu in the home screen of Inscryption that lets you view a bunch of different videos.
You're out of the meta. You're like out of the meta narrative. You're on another layer now.
Yes. Now you are the person playing the character in Inscryption. You're just a guy. And this is like a live action video of a guy like finding this game in the woods and putting it in his computer and all that. I mean, that's really what you find is like he's out in the woods and he finds like this map or these coordinates or something, and he digs up this box that has Inscryption in it. It has the game Inscryption. It's on a floppy disk.
Yeah, and in that universe of this guy, he's like posting unboxing videos, right?
Right.
That's his whole thing. And one of them is the Inscryption card game. So in his universe, Inscryption is just a card game. And then that's when he finds the floppy disk that's a video game version of the card game. And he's like, what is this? As if there weren't enough layers already. Here's another one, by golly. That's also what you get for beating the game the first time.
I'm curious, like, if you were able to find the film and that was the first time.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot to unlock all at once.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm curious if it would even, if like you could. I don't know.
That's there's a lot of unanswered questions, not just because we haven't played the full game, but just because that's the nature of the game.
Yeah.
So much I want to know. Like, again, beating Leshy without the film, this is what you unlock. Beating him with the film leads to Act 2, which we're in spoiler section. You should know this, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you don't,
hopefully you're aware of all this. Act 2, beating Leshy with the film, is the big twist I'm aware of. I'm not convinced there's not more. Caveat: we have not played we have not played all of Inscryption.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Recall that the subtitle of this episode is like, what does it mean to beat a game?
Right.
So we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we talk about the twist, is there anything else about like Act 1 that you wanted to talk about? Any?
Yes.
Yeah, hit me.
So the dagger. I want to talk about the
dagger. Yes.
So in my rough walkthrough of Act 1, you use the dagger to cut out your eye. You get another eye that lets you see the stuff to get the film, to actually beat Act 1. As I said, you use the dagger at any point, asterisk. Yeah. Any fight in the game, you use the dagger, and then you get a new eye after the fight's over. Unless, like the two dweebs we are, you use it in the last fight, because we're like, oh, use the dagger, stab Leshy now. He's vulnerable. And you use the dagger to cut out your eye and tip the scale a bit, but then the game ends and you don't get the option to pick another eye.
Right.
So we were like, what was the point of the dagger? We thought it was special.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We literally picked we probably would have gotten to Act 2 in a much faster with I guess one fewer runs. If we had have used the dagger at any other point, but our thoughts was like, oh, we're gonna kill Leshy with the dagger. It didn't occur that like you're gonna stab out your own eye.
Oh my God.
I thought that maybe using it earlier would be bad because he's gonna like get mad that we tried to kill him or something. Try to use it at the best moment to just end it. And
let me preface this by saying I have watched playthroughs of this game, but they were a long time ago. So this was also a mystery to me. I forgot completely about all of that.
Right.
So I was also really pissed. And if I had known, I would have saved us the trouble. But we used the dagger at the singular time in the game where you should not use the dagger. Insanity.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention, and there's probably a good explanation for this. What was up with the jar of goo?
There is an explanation for that.
Do I know? Would I know? Okay. There's a jar of goo as well. I don't really know what's up with that. I'm curious to learn what it is. More on that in a moment. So,
yeah, you meet like a jar of goo in the cabin who's like, the master needs this or that. Oh, something, the master. And then he like gives you subtle hints about how to progress through Act 1.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of like, if you made it a certain point, he's going to push you forward to completing the game. Like CJ said, the game wants you to beat it. It wants you to get to Act 2. And he's pushing that along, kind of pointing you to the things in the room you need to pay attention to.
And if you're here and you haven't played the game or anything like that, and you're just okay with spoilers, the advertisement, all the media for this game was just Act 1. Nobody, he did not at all advertise that this was more than a little roguelike in a cabin.
Right. And we're being so particular about this because the community has done such an incredible job of keeping this spoiler, this twist of Act 2 safe and allowing people to experience it for themselves. And I think part of that is because it takes quite a while to get there. Yeah. Not everybody's going to see it, but it's it is an incredible feat of community to just not spoil it for people. Everybody's this was awesome. We have to keep it pure for everybody else.
I firmly believe if I didn't know about it and we were both going into it blind, we wouldn't have done our last episode. I think we would have been we beat it. Let's move on to a new game.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I'd be very... You can kind of see the loop of, you beat the game, you put your picture on the fridge, you can see all the times you beat it. That's as much as most roguelikes will give you.
Yeah.
But, and being told that there's a twist, I thought the ARG thing was the twist. I thought the thing where he's you're finding these videos of the guy finding the thing and Inscryption is a card game in real life. I thought that was just it. But not the case. Not the case at all. So you get the film, you go and you take a picture of Leshy, and you make the Leshy card.
You've killed him. You beat him.
You kill him.
Not with a knife like we thought. With the camera.
With the camera.
You shot him.
And then in the room, you see floating and glowing the new game button.
The new game button that's been grayed out from the very beginning.
Yeah. And you get that. And then the room goes dark and you're in a room.
And then you spend an absurd amount of time Googling it to make sure you hadn't broken anything.
to make sure that we weren't doing the knife thing again.
Yeah.
You can skip forward a few seconds in that part of the VOD if you choose.
Hours. We were there way too long, dude.
So you go to the menu and you click new game.
Yep. And it's not starting over from the beginning of the game. It wipes. It shows a fake terminal wiping all of the data and factory resetting this game cartridge, I guess.
Yeah, removing corrupted data, stuff like that. And then Inscryption starts, and you get something that you've never gotten before in the game, which is an explanation for the story.
Yep.
In this 2D pixel art style. You're playing Inscryption now for the first time, and you learn that Inscryption is this this means of all of these different scribes to create cards, and they can all create cards, and there's different types, and there's 4 of them. There's the computer and the death lady and the wizard, all of which correspond to the talking cards in the game, and then there's Leshy. And just the reveal that not only was this another game, or you weren't playing Inscryption, but Inscryption is now a separate game,
right?
A new game with different mechanics and a different art style that you're able to play, is insane. Is one of the craziest reveals in any game I've ever played.
I lived for that moment because the second to last stream, Sam's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, there's a little more to stream." And I was excited for Sam to see this. It was great.
I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen somebody who took at least half, from what I understand, maybe closer to a third of the game and put it behind beating the first part of the game And not just once, but like probably twice, or like beating it so thoroughly and not giving any hint that this other thing, it was insane. It's a completely different game.
It is like if an after credit scene was a whole ass another movie.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, for real.
It's really good. And then you learn, I think it starts with, which scribe do you want to replace? You're coming to challenge the scribes and replace one of them. Mm-hmm. And whoever you pick to replace, you get a deck of cards centered around whatever their mechanic is.
Yes.
And through this, you learn that the Scribe of Bones was the bone mechanic in the first act. Mm-hmm. And Leshy's entire deck is the blood and sacrificing. Like, no other cards do that besides Leshy's cards. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, the Inscryption I was playing in Act 1 was Leshy's version of Inscryption.
Yeah.
It's insane. And there's two other mechanics that just aren't in Act 1 that you've got to learn now.
Yeah. It's not only is it like adding all of these mechanics and different things, it's a completely different genre of game. Yeah. It is no longer a roguelike. It is more akin to something like the Pokemon trading card game, like the Game Boy game, where you're like going around and collecting cards and opening packs and building your deck. But that deck persists. It's completely different, and obviously it's 2D, and you have this big open map to explore, this giant world, and you can go to Leshy's cabin, and you can see that the trapper and the trader and the angler and the prospector are all real characters. Yeah, not just a mask. It is insane. It is the craziest twist in any game I've ever played.
It's you hit it on the head. The genre, it's a complete genre change. Like, instead of deck bloat's no longer a thing, because in Act 1 you get more cards, and that slowly builds up the entirety of the deck that you can use. In this, you get booster packs in like treasure chests, like a JRPG, and you can add any of those to your 20 card deck. You have only 20 cards for every battle. It's a complete change of some of the core mechanics of this game, and it's so freaking good.
It is insane. I've never seen something like this, like so wholly committed to this one moment in the game. And that moment was just incredible. Probably like one of my favorite moments in just any game, or maybe even any piece of media. It was awesome.
It was amazing, dude.
Well, as we're nearing wrapping this up, I wanted to talk about some of our favorite moments from Inscryption. In particular, our miracle run there at the end.
Yes.
Like our last run, where I think we hit all the beats for a great run.
If you want to get the gist of Act 1, go back and watch our last episode of Inscryption.
Truly,
and
it's like a great summary of, if you don't care about the puzzles or anything like that, we start the run with just a shit deck. And you can hear us. We'll put it somewhere back there. We're constantly saying like, let's just end it. Let's call it quits. We'll do a new run. It'll be fine. Like, let's not fall into the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going right. We got the squirrel head, and we were just desperately trying to get a bottom that would do something powerful with the squirrels, but we weren't getting anything remotely useful.
I think it was our second to last run. We got something really good, so that's what we were like banking it all on, our last run, but it just was not happening.
I think we went to the trader or the woodcarver every single opportunity we got.
Got nothing good.
And then eventually we started pulling some decent cards. We got Ouroboros, which is a card that increases in strength every time you kill it, and every time you kill it, it returns to your hand.
Mm-hmm. So you want to prioritize killing it, but we didn't do that.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
Still a good card, but
we got Gek, and we got the Magpie. We were able to give the sigils from the Magpie to Gek, so Gek could now like search for any card in your deck when it was played, which is fantastic. It was a great card.
Yes. And
then we got Sam.
Yeah, the most busted card.
The most busted card. And then we got to put Ouroboros' sigil on Sam. So Sam could be killed infinitely for blood, but if it died in combat, it could be re-summoned. It would just go back to your hand, and it's a 0-cost card, so you could just immediately play it again.
Oh my god, it was beautiful. It's the most beautiful roguelike thing I've ever seen.
It was so busted. It was so broken.
Oh.
And that's when we became aware of the mechanic of like, if you have a 0-cost card, it's if you only have high-cost cards in your hand, you'll always get a 0-cost card to play on the first turn. And we used that to constantly get Gek, which had the Magpie, which would let us draw Sam if we didn't get Gek. And it was just beautiful. From a run that started so badly, it ended so well.
It was you couldn't have scripted it better. We were like, we should just end this now. This isn't going well at all.
We also did we got the painting puzzle to get the 4-leaf clover.
I think that was also the run where we did the eye thing correctly, right? We used the dagger correctly during that run.
Like just a great run.
Yeah,
so good. And then finishing the game and unlocking what comes after. Incredible, insane. You want to talk about Reginald?
So, in our previous runs, we would get this card, and it's one of the, again, a little spoilery. It's hinted at that it's one of the other players that Leshy has killed. His name is Reginald, and he's like a 1 damage poison card.
Right. In a poison card, anything you attack will die instantly.
Poison instantly kills like anything that it touches, but he's only 1 attack, so like. He's not good at killing the bosses, and we never really used him well, I don't think. We never he never came in handy, ever.
No. But we kept drawing him.
Yeah, we kept getting him.
We would have done great if we drew Sam or Ducky or Merlin, anything, but no.
We kept getting
Reginald.
And on our second to last run, we got to the moon. And it is as we said, 40 HP card. Impossible to like take down in 1 turn. Unless you have a poison card. Apparently, you can poison the moon. And we drew Reginald. Perfect timing.
Like, no way this is going to work.
Yeah.
No way we're going to be able to kill the moon in 1 hit. Well.
Put down Reginald. And he kills the goddamn moon in 1 hit. And all of our hatred towards Reginald evaporated. He suddenly became our favorite card. This useless guy that we did not once use.
Oh, Reginald's redemption was the greatest character arc in cinematic history.
Truly, the best. What is it? Circumstantial storytelling or something like that.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Oh my god. And that's just, man, the beautiful thing about roguelikes and Inscryption, just the stories that come from like emergent gameplay was so good. It was so good. I'm quite happy with the VODs we have up. Not to beat a dead horse, but we had some great runs that just it was great.
Such a good game, dude.
Which I think leads really well into like the big question, which is like, why did we stop? Because that was our last stream when we found it. We played a couple rounds of like the true Inscryption, I guess, as you would say. But we didn't do any more streams after that.
Mm-hmm.
And why did we stop?
Well, that's a good question. Because we streamed it.
That's a big part of it. We had done like 5 episodes of Inscryption, and we were ready to move on. There was a lot, and this was our first game we'd streamed, sort of, and we were ready to move on to something else, and we got the satisfaction of beating the game. Like, we'll talk about it in a minute, but our last run was epic.
It was really good.
I don't use that word like it was amazing. We did so good. And then I think another thing was the game. Act 2 is so different. It is a different genre, different mechanics, multiple different, like, you're these energy cores and these magic triangles. There's all of these different mechanics, and I'm like, well, I just beat the game. Yeah. There's another game that I have to play. It felt like I was done. You've watched like a full playthrough. Did you feel the same, or was it mostly just the time component for you?
Yeah, no. It felt like you were gonna have to learn a whole new game. It felt like you just finished freaking Banjo-Kazooie, and now you've got to play Banjo-Tooie. It's like a whole ass another thing. And us streaming it rather than just playing it on our off time, I felt like we needed to move on to something else. And I'm not saying, like, we might come back to it, I think we want to come back to it.
I think so. I think it's one of those things that I might need like a little bit of time away to appreciate what the game has to offer. Because it kind of felt like a bit of a chore coming back and like learning a whole new mechanic with different, like, I was like, I just got good at Inscryption, and now it's like sort of Inscryption, but also not. It's very different.
I could see how like Act 1 is more fun than Act 2 in a way. And that's, again, all preference. So, but I don't know. I think we'll eventually get back to it.
I think so.
And as much as we've harped on how good the gameplay was, that was all Act 1. We don't know anything. Well, Sam doesn't know much about the gameplay of Act 2 yet. But what's drawing us back is this story, this narrative, this meta and then meta narrative that's going on. Yeah. We want to know what the hell's happening.
I want to know what's going on with the goop. I want to know what's going on with the meat, which is in the 2D version, it's like in the safe. That has to be a thing. What's going on with that? Why are you replacing one of them? What happens when you do? There's just so many questions. How does it even get to the point where it's this 3D game, like the obvious one? I'm really interested, and that's what's keeping me going. But the change of mechanics just kind of threw me off, and then that combined with, being ready to move on to something else. I think we very easily could have spent another like 3 or 4 episodes in Inscryption.
Oh yeah.
Maybe more. From what I understand, there might be another act.
I think a lot more than 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Depending on a few things, actually.
So, maybe I'll go and I'll watch a playthrough of the rest of it. Maybe we'll decide to come back. But part of the thing is, like, we're not going to do another episode of Inscryption, most likely. We've kind of hit all the beats, and we're not going to do an episode just based on the spoiler parts, most likely. So it would be something that we're streaming that we're not going to be able to talk about later in a video or on the podcast. So that's another component, kind of the meta component. But I think even if I were playing it on my own, not on stream, I probably would have bounced at that point and come back eventually. But like, I think it's a clean break there. And so I think that kind of opens up for the question of the week. and the question of like this episode, which is, how do you know that you're done with a game? Mm-hmm. What does finished mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Is that like I've got to the credits? Is that I've 100%, I've platted this game, have all the trophies and achievements? Is that I've got bored with it? What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah. Keep the comments spoiler free.
Yeah.
Please. But let us know down in the comments or in our Discord, like, what are your thoughts on that? CJ, what do you think?
First off, welcome back, people that didn't want spoilers.
Yeah, we'll put a break here. Mm-hmm. You can jump ahead to this point. Mm-hmm. We probably should have mentioned that earlier. Whatever.
Yeah, that's fine.
No more spoilers after this point. Mm-hmm. So, when do you know that you're done with a game?
Me personally, when I'm like losing too much, whenever I'm just not making any headway in a game, then I'm like, all right, I'll stop this for now. And I wouldn't say completely done. Mm-hmm. Many times in my life, I've put down a game because it was way too hard, and then I come back a year later, and then I get past that point, and I eventually beat it. Or I don't, because I never beat games. Or when I'm bored. If I'm like, this isn't interesting to me, I'm going to put it away and never touch it again.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Having said that, though, I prefer to play open-ended games. Those are the games that I spend most of my time on. Mm-hmm. Games like Minecraft, RimWorld, Project Zomboid, to name a few. Games where, sure, Minecraft has an end, but you're not there to get to the credits. You're there to mine and to craft.
Yeah, exactly.
RimWorld technically has an end. I don't know if Project Zomboid has an end. But in all these games, it's very open-ended. Like, you just play the game for the mechanics, for the gameplay, and not to see the credits.
Yeah.
It helps me skip out. Okay, hold on. Let me back up for a sec. Have you ever beat a game, watched a movie, finished a series, and at the end you're like, now what?
Oh, yeah.
You just get this feeling in your gut. You're like, well, now what? Now I have to go back to living my life. Not to get depressing, but that's why I play these types of games, so I never get to that point.
That's a fair point, yeah.
And this is something I realized later in life about myself, is that I don't fucking like that feeling. So I'm really bad about finishing games. As I've stated previously on our older podcast episodes. Oh, man. The amount of games that have a save file right before the final boss fight for me, and I never did this consciously. I just stopped playing them.
Man, I get it. I get it. I mean, like, how often... And I think this is an experience a lot of people had, like, you don't want to beat Ganon in Breath of the Wild because then that means it's over. Like, that means there's no more. Mm-hmm. And I think that more than any other game, it's like an intentional delaying of... Mm-hmm. There's a component that's like, I need to make sure I'm ready, but there's also like, I don't want my time in this world to end. Mm-hmm. And I totally get where you're coming from with that.
Breath of the Wild is a perfect example because that is one of the few games I have beat. And I stopped after getting all the shrines, which is a feat in itself. I stopped playing that game for like years. And then I came back to it and beat Ganon in seconds because I was overprepared, as you tend to be. But that is a perfect example. But now that CJ's done being vulnerable, what's your answer, Sam?
The same in a lot of ways. Like, I definitely bounce off things because I get bored or because I'm just not having a good time. A big component for me, I think, is FOMO. I feel like I've only got so much time to play games, and time spent on one game is times that I can't spend on another game.
Right.
And I don't mean that in like a negative way. It's just there's so much stuff. There's so many good games constantly coming out. Like, you could take the games from last year alone and probably fill up my queue for the next couple of years. And that's excluding the ones from the year before or the ones that are going to come out this year. I have a hard time investing a lot of time into one game when it feels like that's I have other things that I want to play. So I think for me, I have a lot of games that I start but don't ever get very far in, or that I don't finish because there's a new shiny thing. There's a Steam sale that took something that I wanted for a while, and now it's $3, and now I'm playing Inscryption, and I'm really enjoying Inscryption, but man, UFO 50 just came out and I really want to play UFO 50. There's just FOMO, but not in the sense of like microtransactions and skins or anything. I want to experience all these games, and I, as unfortunately an adult with a job, can't do it all the time and have to make, decisions about what does and doesn't get my attention.
See, I think I have like the opposite problem. I have a Steam library full of games, but like 5 of them have thousands of hours, and that's it. That's it. None of them have none of them have been touched. But no, I do get the FOMO thing though. That's why I won't. And this is like skins and stuff. This is why I won't play games like Fortnite, because I hate that. I hate that. I missed the snake. I didn't get Snake as a skin, and I'm mad about it.
You have FOMO?
I have really bad FOMO. Really bad FOMO about that.
POMO, pain of missing out.
POMO. We've coined that. That is our thing now. POMO.
It's hard, man. It's hard. I think another thing for me is sometimes I'll feel like I've gotten a full experience, even if I haven't necessarily beat the game. I don't know if I necessarily need to beat everything. Like, I've been playing Super Mario Sunshine, and I really like that game. I have a lot of fun with it. I don't know if I necessarily care to beat it. I feel like I got kind of what I wanted in just running around in the world, being Mario, playing with Flood, doing some cool puzzles. And now I'm like, I kind of bounced off, but I feel like I got a full experience. Even if it wasn't the full game, I experienced Super Mario Sunshine. I can talk about it. I like have an opinion on it. I saw what it was doing, and I don't necessarily feel compelled to actually beat it.
Can I amend my answer?
Yes.
So I think a thought just occurred to me. I think I stopped playing games when I stopped unlocking stuff. I think that's when I stopped playing games. Like, aside from the feeling of a game ending, I think I quit playing Sunshine after I unlocked all of the nozzles for Flood.
I see.
Like, shortly after getting the last nozzle, I was like, well, I don't think you can unlock anymore. I think I'm done with the game. I think that's something that I do. I stopped playing Breath of the Wild after I got the whatever of the wild costume.
Honestly, that's a really good point. I played Tears of the Kingdom like a fiend, and then I found not all of the costumes, but I got to a point where I'm not finding new ones very frequently, and that's really kind of taken a lot of the fun out of it for me. Like, the costumes usually don't even really matter, but that's what I find that's fun. I like playing dress up.
Oh yeah, no.
It's awesome. There's so many cool things. Blah blah blah. But now that I'm not doing it, I'm like, oh, well, like, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get for doing this shrine? Like 4 golden apples or like a meal? I don't need that anymore. So that's a really good point.
I stopped playing Minecraft after I built a house and like have a stable income of food. Like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done. It's not challenging. It's not that it's not challenging anymore. It's just I've completed my goals.
Right.
I don't know how to put this into words. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's not a goal. It's like a feeling of satisfaction. I think you've found your completion.
Yeah.
it's just not the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can feel complete from a game without necessarily having beat it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm at with Inscryption right now. And I feel like next time I play Inscryption, it's going to be like playing Inscryption 2 rather than playing another game.
Yeah.
Or rather than going back to Inscryption, I should say.
That's a good answer to that, honestly. Oh man. Having said all that, have you ever 100%ed the game? Because it goes without saying that this differs from game to game. This feeling of completeness. Have you ever 100%ed a game?
No, not as far as I can remember. The closest I ever did was completing the Pokedex and getting the shiny charm in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is a considerable feat. Catching everything, and then there's like certain missions you have to complete for each Pokemon to get their full Dex entry. It took quite a bit of time, and I think that was the closest comparable thing. But even then, once I completed that goal, I was like, I don't feel the need to do all these battle challenges or side quests. Like, those aren't serving me anymore. It's just keeping the game going. So that's the closest experience I've had. And I think the reason I felt compelled to do so was because you actually get things for beating the game. You get first, completing the Pokédex is how you get the true boss of the game, Arceus, and a chance to catch it. And then you get the shiny charm by completely filling it out, which increases your chance of getting shinies, which is just a fun thing.
Right.
What about you?
I asked this question because I wanted to make a point. But first, the two games that I've ever 100%ed in my life are the first Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. And I played it when I was little, but I 100%ed it years later. And the other one is Batman Arkham City. And that one was a bitch to 100%.
Yeah.
Because of the Riddler stuff. But I bring this up because I wanted to put these into perspective, and even Arceus. Why? Because as someone who's notoriously bad at beating games, why did I 100% these two?
If I can psychoanalyze you for a moment,
go for it.
I feel like Batman Arkham, you do get stuff. There's a long skill tree that you get to complete. Number one.
I hate skill trees, let me just say.
Yeah, that'd be a fun episode for a future, fun topic for a future episode. There's also lore things that you tend to unlock by doing the challenges. And if you get to a certain point in the Riddler challenges, there are additional missions with the Riddler you unlock. I think it's pretty good about feeding you rewards for doing all the things that feel substantial. So in what you were saying earlier, that you feel like you're done with the game when you run out of things to do, I think Arkham City gives you a lot of things to do and gives you lots of things to unlock constantly.
I think you're right. Actually, I think you're also right about Jak and Daxter, because when you beat the boss, spoilers for Jak and Daxter, old game from the PS2. When you beat Jak and Daxter, there's this giant door at the very end, and they're like, "Oh, what could be behind it? You better go get all 100 power cells, or however many there are." And that factored with the nostalgia. I think is why I went back and 100%ed that one.
Yeah.
But what about you and Arceus? You said that's the closest. Is it? I set out trying to make some point, or psychoanalyze, to use your word. But I think it boils down to it fun.
I do think that's a big component of it. I've never been compelled to do that for any of the other games.
And when I say that about my games too. It fun. That's why I 100%ed them.
I mean, that's true. Oh man, Batman Arkham City is so good.
Yeah.
Pokemon Arceus, I think, in my opinion, has the best feeling mechanics of any of the games. Like catching is so satisfying. Running around the world feels great. Like it's just fun. It's fun. But knowing there's that little cookie at the end of I haven't beat the game until I battle and catch Arceus. Like when you start the game, that is the first thing that you are told is to like catch all the Pokemon. And if you don't, that's fine. You still get credits. You still beat the game, but like it really like heavily tells you like this is the point, and you get something cool if you get that far. And I knew I wanted that satisfaction of having done it. And the game was fun, and it didn't feel like a chore to do those things. Whereas I think for other Pokemon games, it would have, and is why I've never gotten very far.
I think you already answered this, but did you feel satisfied once you got to that point in Arceus?
I did. It felt good. I caught God, and then I got the shiny charm, which made it to where when I do go back to the game occasionally, there's like every now and then like a chance that I'll find something cool that I didn't see otherwise.
That's good.
What about you with what about Jak and Daxter? What do you think about that cutscene?
Yeah, that's why I asked that question. I was a little upset about Jak and Daxter's end scene because there's a giant door. And you're like, what could be behind this giant door? I want to know what's behind this giant door. So you get all the power cells, and they open the door, and the camera is, I'm pretty sure it's looking out of the door at all the characters who have just opened the door. And they're like, whoa, I can't believe this is behind the door. And it fucking ends. I'm pretty mad about it.
Oh, dude.
It's basically the suitcase from Pulp Fiction, if you've ever watched Pulp Fiction. For anyone that knows what I'm talking about, they open a suitcase and it's like glowing gold, and they're like, whoa, that's so cool. I can't believe that's in this suitcase. Throughout the entirety of the movie, they open it like 2 or 3 times, and you never know what's in the suitcase. They never tell you.
Damn. That would drive me insane.
But that's the thing, is that throughout the entirety of the movie, that's hinted at. You're like wanting to know what's in the suitcase. It's at the end of the game where they're like, oh, wow, that's there. Wow. And it's over. And I'm mad.
Oh, you find out in Jak 2, I suppose.
You find out in Jak 2 that it is a time machine, and you're like, wow, okay. Cool. I'm glad.
Oh, man.
Oh.
I have hit record. Sam just hit record. Let me boop it the boo. Okay. You ready to sync up?
Let's do it.
Okay.
3,
2, 1, play.
Sweet.
Welcome to our podcast about the systems in the games we play and how those inspire the ones we make. I'm Sam.
And I'm CJ, and this is Systems in Play. We should do that again in Wave.
Oh, yeah. All right. Second time's the charm.
Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep. Welcome to our podcast about the systems in the games we play and how those inspire the ones we make. I'm Sam, and I forgot to wave. One more time. Marker.
Take 3.
Welcome to our podcast about the systems in the games we play and how those inspire the ones we make. I'm Sam.
And I'm CJ. And this is Systems in Play. I don't think we were supposed to sync up with that. I think that was me.
All right, practice. Take 4.
Okay, take 4.
All right. Welcome. All right.
Okay.
Welcome to our podcast about the systems in the games we play and how those inspire the ones we make. I'm Sam.
And I'm CJ, and this is Systems in Play. Now, guys, have you ever played a game that's just absolutely pulled the rug out from under your feet?
In this episode, we're discussing Inscryption, a mysterious game that nearly broke my neck with all of its twists.
In addition to the gameplay and the story, we're also going to talk about what it means to finish a game or simply just put a game down.
Let's get into it. Big disclaimer. If you've not played Inscryption, highly recommend that you, if you're interested at all in playing it, do it before listening to this podcast.
Yes. Or better yet, go watch our playthrough of it.
seasonsandplay.com has all of our links if you want to find our playthrough. But you're gonna see some clips of that up on the screen here, and we'll try to stay spoiler free for the first half, at least in terms of story. We're gonna talk about mechanics and everything in the first half of this episode, and then we'll make it very clear that if you are not interested in spoilers, there will be a cutoff where you turn off the episode and go watch our VOD.
For this first part, very, very mild spoilers. We'll tell you when the heavy stuff comes, and you should definitely play the game first.
Yeah. I will say, if you know nothing about the game, expect the unexpected. That's what drew me into the game. I don't think that's a spoiler. I'll just say, like, I was interested in playing the game. And you can probably hear this if you see on the first VOD. I knew there was a twist. I knew that the game wasn't exactly what it was appearing to be on the surface. And that was kind of the intrigue for me. That's what kept me interested.
It's a game by Daniel Mullins, and if you know anything about Daniel Mullins, then expect this game to be a very Daniel Mullins-centric game. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that.
And that's all I've got to say about that.
Let's get into it with, we're going to start off by talking about, the basic mechanics, the gameplay, the general vibe of what Inscryption is. You boot up the game, what do you see? What do you feel?
The very first thing, you start the game, and there's a little bit of I want to know what's going on with the goop. I want to know what's going on with the meat.